Okay, we are recording. Okay, I think we're just about there. Let me just see where we're at on our page. Fantastic. Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Inclusive Theater of Western New York's Saturday series on inclusion in the arts. This week, we are taking a little segue, a little different from what we usually do, and we thought it would be timely to talk about both on and offline safety. Some of the rationale behind it is, we have been in conversation with some of the organizations that provide law enforcement in Western New York, and there are certain things that are on the increase. And it is helpful for us to remember that even in a pandemic, things are happening, especially in a pandemic, particularly online since everybody is there. So we thought it would be important and a good topic for us to start talking about. Just really quickly before we get started, if you require closed captioning on your video stream, and you are watching from Facebook, you just need to select closed captioning on your Facebook page and it will do it automatically for you. We also will be closed captioning once the video has been uploaded to YouTube, and it will be available at some point this evening, and I believe it does automatic closed captioning, and we will go in after and adjust the transcript as necessary if it's terrible and off, because sometimes that's how it happens. So welcome, everybody. My name is Amy Levesque. I'm the Executive Director. I have at the top here for me, I have Dallas Taylor, who is the Artistic Director of Inclusive Theater. We also have Queen Robinson with us tonight. Kat, I can't say your last name, but she's here with us, and I love you. We have Quentin Gray, who is also part of iTowney, and hopefully joining us soon will be Jessica. And so we'll just jump right in. I do have a share screen. I don't know how that's going to do things, so I'm just going to try it really quickly, because if it works, I'd like to kind of just use that as something we kind of take a look at. Okay, can you guys see everything okay here? Do you still see what's happening? You can still see one another?
Yes.
Okay, and then we have some other things for that safety. Let me just check our stream. Looks like we're up there, and we will make that work later. I don't know what's happening. So, okay. So basically, again, we're just going to go over some kind of baseline stuff, right? Like we're going to talk about things that are important because they're really important now. And some stuff might be completely familiar to you. Other things you may have no idea about, and that's okay. If you have questions and you are watching the Facebook live stream, just type them in the chat. We'll be checking in. There is a significant delay, however, so please be patient with us. We will be checking in to look to see if there are questions or comments or additions. If you have things, this is not by any means meant to be a comprehensive overview. This is just like this major overview, because there are so many parts to safety that are out there, and we're just touching the surface of this topic, okay? So we're gonna start with online safety first. That's because we're here, right? For many folks, we've been home since March. A lot more people than have ever before been online are there, because that's how we're working. We're working remotely, school's happening online as well. But people who have not traditionally been online are also on. So we have to amp up our efforts at safety. And also, really quickly, to panelists, you guys jump in whenever you like as well. Please do. We're happy to do it. Okay, jump in. So the first thing I figured we would look at, because we're not going to look at the internet as a whole. We have way too many things on the internet, but social media, that seems to be one of those huge areas that is being both positively and adversely affected by the pandemic, okay? And there are lots and lots of apps. These are just little things that we use that are more in the mainstream, if you will. YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp. A little further down, we have Twitter, we have Snapchat. We know what it is, so we're not going to go over that, but some general things to know about safety when you are online, okay? We know what social media is. We're going to jump past that, but this is kind of what it looks like, right? These are all of these pieces. And during the pandemic, people have used things like social media to stay connected, but also for more kind of nefarious reasons, to catfish and do other kind of not so great things. So when you're on online spaces, some things to keep in mind, you know, these golden rules, right? And this doesn't matter what age you are at all. You could be, well, 13, because that's how old you're supposed to be, I believe, on social media, or 103. These are just kind of basic things that are really helpful to remember when you are online. The first, make sure you don't give your personal information away. Now that sounds super, super basic, but I can't tell you how many times a day people do it. You know, in preparation for this presentation, there were some discussions with the local bureau of the FBI in Buffalo, and people still do this. They put full names, addresses, places of employment, phone numbers all over the place. And if you have not locked down your account, every single person can see it. So you have to be mindful of what it is you're sharing and who you're sharing it with, okay? And that should always be this kind of golden rule that you are following. Also, if anyone ever asks you for this information and you are unsure, tell a trusted person right away. Right away, you have to let them know. For example, I have heard in the past 3 or 4 days, somebody has been going both online and phone, calling people and giving them offers for mortgages. They sound really, really good. And they're calling people who are homeowners. And if you don't know what's happening or you don't understand what's going on, it can go bad pretty quickly. So if you don't know what to do, talk to somebody who might be able to help you. If you have questions about something, you can email Inclusive Theater of Western New York at gmail.com. We can forward things on your behalf to the FBI. We can also get you contact information with other people that can help you. So if you're not interested in sharing it directly with us, just let us know and we will get that contact information for you, okay? Just some really brief tips and tricks. Don't give that personal information away. Super important. Also, don't respond if you don't know who is contacting you. Now, Jess is having some difficulty getting on here.
So is Heather.
Oh, she can't get on either. Well, she should be Facebook live streaming unless she wants the, hold on.
I gave it to her already.
That's perfect. Beautiful.
Says meeting is invalid.
Yeah, that's, I don't know what that's about. If they can't get in, then they'll have to put questions on Facebook, maybe because it started, I don't know. But don't respond to who you don't know is contacting you. Unfortunately, with everybody being online, there are a whole lot of fake accounts. And the way that people kind of prod to try to get things from others is pretending they're someone else and just cold messaging them. How many of you guys have ever had that? Where you get like a random friend request, right? So Queen, like what does that look like?
I mean, you get these random friend requests on Instagram that you don't know them, they don't know anything about you, and come to find out it's, you know, some catfish or somebody who thinks that you were a suggestion. And then I always will lead with, what drew you to my page? Because I'm like, do you like Prince? Do you like the theater? Do you like Bon Jovi? Do you like Cats? And then, you know, I always say that first because I'm like, I don't know you, you know, and so that's what it comes up. And then basically, if they can't answer that question, that means they haven't really looked at my page, because you can't really get on my Instagram unless I okay you. and there's a lot of messages that come through, and don't speak English or don't know who, if you don't know who Prince is, then you basically don't live in this universe.
But it's important that you mention Insta because Facebook owns Instagram.
I know.
So
And
now,
they're so different.
yes, but now things that might have been differently protected, it's happening the same way that Facebook happens. And I don't know, like Dallas, if you want to speak to that, or anybody, just the idea that, like, they're owned by the same company. So how does that safety then impact what we're doing?
I don't know if I can speak it to that point, but I have seen on both of those platforms where people will make a fake account and try to contact you. Like I get some on Facebook where it's this really pretty girl from France, but you look at her profile and all of her pictures were posted like 3 minutes ago. So it's obviously
Yes.
a fake profile. Or on Instagram where someone can just take all of your pictures, post it on their fake profile, take your own bio, and just pretend to be someone else. I got one of those earlier this week, and they followed me, and I'm like, wait a minute, this person already follows me. So I went to the original profile and said, is this you? Did you make a new account? And they're like, no, this is not me at all. You should report that profile right away.
That's
So
actually
always,
really important. So if you see a friend's account cloned, contact them immediately. That's
Yeah.
actually, yeah, that's really important. And that's good that you did that, Dallas, because oftentimes it happens and people have no idea.
yeah,
And that basically, kind of at the most rudimentary level is what catfishing is, right? You make these accounts, you use somebody else's pictures. If you have any interest in MTV, I'm sure you've seen, Neeb and doing his show, right?
Exactly.
And that's what we're talking about here. This is happening rampantly, and more so now. And part of the reason, one of the major reasons, is because they get paid. Okay, so we have to remember that first and foremost, because oftentimes it's quantity. If they can get a hold of other people's accounts and then can get things from them, they can get paid. The second part, though, are the more kind of more disgusting and more of the challenging pieces, are the people that are actually doing it because they're pedophiles looking for children under a certain age, or they're looking to harass somebody, maybe, old friend that's living a good life, and they want to, harass them there, or trying to allegedly pick somebody up for catfishing. And if you've ever watched that show, I mean, there's people that have hundreds of accounts and
Oh
they
yeah.
keep these things going, and they're really good at it. And I know, Jess, because I'm glad you got in, and you can speak to that a little bit, because you quite regularly get some of these things on your end, right?
Well, yeah, and funny you should say that, because one of my I've been falsely accused. I've been accused of being a catfish, believe it or not. And interestingly enough, somebody recently this year had the audacity to make a duplicate Facebook account, and I had to really knuckle down to let people know on all, like on my like page and my personal page, to let people know that I will not let people use my photos without my consent, because if they're going to use it as their dating profile thinking that it's somebody else and it's not me, we got a bigger problem when it comes to catfishing and dating sites. And yeah, I've been accused by a lot of people thinking I'm not a real person. So somebody has used my photos.
Wow.
Mm.
And I'm sure Jessica will attest to this, that we have gotten people who have made up such stories to try and get iTunes cards, Amazon cards, Steam cards. Oh, I'm in the hospital. I was shot in the line of duty. My kid's gonna die. Um, how about you, Jess? Have you gotten them?
Oh, Queen, lately, since 2015 to like now, they've been warning a lot of people about these army scammers. Now they're everywhere on dating sites, Tinder, oh my God, Bumble, everywhere. When I was on dating sites at the time before I got rid of them, and because I have been single for a long time, so I figured, why don't I just look for just some fun? And some of these guys were really quickly desperate, and they showed a lot of desperate signs of love bombing, asking for money, and their English was poorly off.
Right?
And then they come off as like very, very hostile, if you will, if you reject them.
Oh, yes, you're cold-hearted.
Yeah, or at times they'll be so snippy they would call me a bitch or a whore.
Yeah, so like that's usually kind of the tip off, right? Hi, Matt. I see you joined us. So just so you know, we're just getting you up to speed. We're just talking right now basically about online, and then we'll be jumping to our offline pieces. But yeah, so that's what they do. Typically when you don't give them what they're expecting or they want, right, then they become vulgar. You know, an interesting thing that can happen. So if you're, these things can be and should be reported to Facebook, even if it happens in private message. Unfortunately, which is where some of the problem lies, is that Facebook has a very, very like small group of people working from home now. So some of the protections that were there before are just gone. And it's because they're not fully staffed. But that also makes it extremely challenging. You know, in talking with the FBI, one of the things that frustrates them so much is that there are actually more predators than monitors, right? So you have to be really mindful in these spaces. And I'm glad you brought up things like dating sites. It isn't just Facebook, right? We have things like, you know, Tumblr, there's people, Tinder, right? That's another one. Tinder, people, there was a huge article about a woman and she was in her 50s. She had met this person. It was great. Everything was wonderful. And it was terrible. You know, he wasn't who he said he was and all of these things. And by then she'd already given him, you know, $50,000. You know, somehow we lose our mind, right? Like we start meeting people and then we forget those things. So you have to be really, really super cautious when you are doing any space that is within this virtual world, right? Jess, what's up?
Well, yeah, it's really funny that you bring up on that part too, because you never know what you get, and people do get funny on these dating sites. I've had people to tell me wish I was dead, and I've had people tell me to go kill myself at times. This is men. A lot of these so-called gentlemen, like they're sweet to you at first. They're like, "Hey, baby, what you doing?
Well,
Can we
and
meet up
Pretty you
sometime?
are.
yeah,
I hope you
yeah,
kill yourself. I hope you die. I hope you
that's
get
a
raped."
perfect segue, by the way, to cyberbullying, right? But I'll preface that with, you know, just to kind of tip on to what you said, you think they're guys. Okay, so we have to remember always in this virtual space, to Dallas's point about his friend in France, right? This beautiful woman who added the pictures 3 minutes ago. Who knows? It could be a man. Like, we don't know who that person is. So we can't assume that just because that photo they show us is there, that is the person that we are speaking with. Very, very important. And there are, in fact, ways that you can find that out, obviously through Skyping and things like that. But again, if we've watched Catfish, we know that's like the last resort, right? These people have relationships for 10 years and never FaceTime. And then they're surprised that it's, you know, somebody that they've known for 15 years. Like, what just happened here? So we have to remember, before anything, these folks who you're talking to may not at all be who it is. It could be a male or a female. Okay, so we have to remember that. But issues like you're speaking of, Jess, that is just prime examples of cyberbullying. And you know, we know about people like Jamie Rodemeyer, right? Like people that have died because of the online harassment got so bad. So when things like cyberbullying come up, we need to know how to confront it and how to react to it, right? So, you know, the biggest challenge is when the internet first began and we started getting all this social networking stuff, people couldn't possibly fathom how you could bully somebody online. It's impossible. It's fake. It's a virtual world. There's people that make comments about Facebook not being real. it is in fact a glimpse of our day. It's not the entire 24 hours. It'd be impossible. But there are aspects that are in fact real to it. And when you have been bullied relentlessly, it becomes quite real to you. And people react in different ways. So we have to be mindful of that, right? We have to be cautious and safe for ourselves, because people everywhere are bullied online. People are bullied on cell phones. If you've ever received a random text, other devices. But also, kind of the unfortunate piece of this bullying is that people often who are victims of bullying online either feel too afraid or too embarrassed to report it. And we're here to tell you, don't be, right? Like, you're not the first person it's happened to, and you shouldn't be embarrassed at all. And you should rely on your friends and those that you trust to help you get through situations like this. So if you were to, in fact, find yourself in a situation where you felt bullied, even as an adult, we sometimes like, oh, I'm so embarrassed, I can't talk about it. No, you should. And that's what, we hope that through Inclusive, that you guys feel that you have that safe space. We would help you. It could be anonymous, whatever. That's what we're here to do. But also that, there isn't shame in what happens. It happens to the best of us, right? Anybody who has been online long enough can tell you stories where they too have fallen for it. So don't ever be embarrassed by it. But we have to be proactive about it, saying that, right? So we need to be able to respond to this bullying, and the best way to do that. Jess, did you want to chime in?
I also want to definitely point out that as well as sexual harassment, and this is a lot of women deal with on a daily basis, including myself, because what I would get is a lot of these messages from a lot of men, mostly, even sometimes women once in a while, but mostly it's male, all men, pretty much a lot of them I don't know. And they would randomly just, these are guys from all over the world, including guys from like India and Africa. They would be like, hey, sexy, send me a nude photo. And you know what I would get? A dick pic, a daily dick pic. And you and I know this because you have seen it. You've seen the stories I have told you that I've dealt with sexual harassment for years on not just Facebook, which I'm surprised Facebook actually allows that, Instagram, Tumblr. This is like everywhere. All of my websites have been spammed with dick pics because they think that I would go for that.
Okay, well, part of the reason is I don't think they really care that you go for that. I think they do it because that's what they do, right? It's violating. They know that's some way to get toward people. And sometimes people give them what they want, right? So if you are approached for that, one of the things that I kind of was astounded to learn is that as an adult, you really have no recourse. However, the best thing that you can do when those things happen and those people contact you is not respond at all and report them immediately. Because 9 times out of 10, if you respond within seconds, you are blocked and you cannot get this person, right? And the point in this is that if they're doing it to you, whomever it is, I mean, you can find pictures of penises online and share them everywhere. You don't know who you're talking to, again, right? But if these things happen to you, if they're doing it to you, they're doing it to others. Right. And there are children on virtual spaces. So if not for anything else, our responsibility when these things happen is to, one, not respond to it, two, report it before it becomes where you're blocked and they're on to the next person.
And then once I reject the offerings and stuff, what they want me to do and stuff,
they become belligerent. Yes.
Well, they call me all kinds of degrading names because I wasn't interested in them.
No, because you didn't give them what they wanted, again. And that's the important. Dallas?
I was going to go back to the point where how I guess sort of the term bullying is almost seen as, for an adult, it's like, oh, this is too embarrassing to report. When in actuality, it's just abuse. Like we have the connotation that bullying is for younger adults or teenagers or kids, but it's abuse, so it applies to all ages. I've gotten some cyber bullying before, not to extreme measures, but I've gotten some some death threats and just some regular insults. I've reported some of them, but more of the benign ones is just, I'm not gonna let this person get me mad when they don't even know me because I said that something, a sports related kind of thing, and I got a bad comment. Like NFL fans are crazy.
Yeah, so it's really important and not to have that shame about it because it is straight up abuse. It's violating to the person. It's meant to shake you. But again, speaking to those you trust is important. Don't respond. That's what they always tell you with the bully in person. Apparently internet spaces give people all of this excitement. They can do all these things because if they did it in person, somebody would punch them in the mouth, right? Like, let's be fair.
Right.
It wouldn't be happening. It would never happen in real life, right? They're doing it in these spaces because they feel safe. But when you respond to it, you are buying into what they want. And if they're being paid to do certain things and to get stuff, you're just on to the next one. Like, they're not looking for the things that you think that they are looking for, okay? Again, saving that evidence. You don't need to look at it, but save it so you can show it to somebody. We talked about Facebook being kind of low right now, right? Save it, report it, but do it before they can block you. And kind of this guiding principle, if something isn't right, if it doesn't feel right, it isn't. So tell somebody. You don't have to carry that burden alone, okay? There are ways for you to stay safe on places like Facebook or Instagram, and that's just locking down your profile. Your privacy settings are gold. They are, the people that you keep out or in of your thing, that's up to you. If you find that a lot of people are coming in and you're getting terrible, terrible messages, lock it down. If people are getting in on those other, that's why they filter messages. You don't have to respond to them. That's why they're filtered. But that privacy part is up to you. And if you need help with that, that we can help with that. There's other people that can help as well. We want your safety. That to us is most important, right? For those of you that were here when our show was Zoom bombed, we shut that down immediately. That could have been vulgar beyond vulgar, right? But we stopped it. We have all of that information. So if anything ever came of it, they can be reported. Luckily, it's just dumb kids that did ours, right? But some of folks are using these spaces to really push agendas and do terrible, horrible things. So, be vigilant. It's up to you to lock down that account and be safe. Because if not, you're kind of leaving yourself open for that. Right. Dallas?
And then just really quickly to that point, like you said, they're after just any kind of information that they can get. And going back to the slides earlier, just as simple as an email address. I heard a story about a place earlier during the pandemic where they got a hold of someone's email address. They were able to send like some phishing kind of email to everyone in the workplace. A couple people responded to it. They got further and further deep into the archives, and they eventually got into the payroll system until that got shut down. So they can, like, just as simple as an email address, they can really do some damage.
They can,
so, like
and they
you said,
will.
that privacy information.
Yeah, and if you're doing it for a job, man, you might have to get 150 emails by the end of a business day to get paid. They're going to get them anywhere they can get them. And unfortunately, that's becoming more and more prevalent again because more people are home. Just really quickly, Jess, before I come back to you, one thing that isn't often talked about but is used regularly are these SMS apps. If you are not familiar with them, people can go online, get a fake phone number, just like, not fake, but it's a real phone number. Like Google, you can get a phone number, or you can text from an app or text from a site. And oftentimes, for example, WhatsApp, that's one of the big ones that's used. People get that and they send cold texts out, and sometimes people respond. Sometimes they link them to social networking. So you might be talking to somebody and, oh yeah, give me your number, and they give you this number. It's the correct area code for where they say they are, but beyond that, it's not a functioning phone number in how it would be if you called me, or if Dallas and I called each other. It is basically used to kind of promote whatever agenda it is that they're doing. The latest episode in Catfish, if any of you guys caught it this week, they were talking about somebody, and the whole thing was it was a WhatsApp text. And the minute that this person was found out, they deactivated it.
And you cannot find out where the origin of that number is. Me, as a bill collector, I know how to find numbers left, right, and center. You can put in all the skip tools you want. It will not come up.
Yep.
So it's just a Google app. You can go in there. It takes 10 seconds, I've heard. But yeah, that is super crazy.
Absolutely. Jess, do you want to chime in real quick?
Well, yeah, there's also revenues to, if you want to keep your account safe from not, as well as cyberbullet, well, mostly getting hacked. There is this thing that they're doing now on a lot of websites where you have like a specific code. It text messages you and it emails you the code. Nobody else has it but you. So that way nobody's able to hack into any of your accounts, Facebook accounts, any websites. It'll automatically notify you if somebody's trying to get in.
Yep,
And that's
so,
the
yeah.
luxury, because your account, your password and stuff is locked down, so that way nobody's able to hack into your account to gather up information. And that's the best thing since sliced bread.
Yep, you lock it down. That's the best thing you can do. Just kind of before we go on to our next area, just to kind of wrap things up on this online piece, you know, there are many places and many apps that things can go awry. But if there's anything that you take away from this today, is that, you know, protect yourself. Privacy is important, but protect yourself. Your mental health and well-being is a paramount concern. The other stuff doesn't matter. If somebody is bothering you, if it becomes where it's not stopping, you know, come to somebody that can help you. There are many of us that are willing to do that. If you don't want to talk to one of us, we have people that can help in local law enforcement. You know, you need not be afraid to share these things. It's important to protect yourself in any way that you can. Also, you know, we're not beating up on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and things like that. There's hundreds of sites. Those just are the predominant ones that people tend to use. So just be vigilant in what it is that you use. Don't assume that the person you're talking to is actually the person that you're talking to. You know, and just be really careful. And if you ever feel uncomfortable, it's, you know, those are those warning signs, right? And we need to take those things seriously, because sometimes things can spiral out of control really quickly. Okay. This then is kind of like our segue into the next portion, is this offline safety. And a reason behind this and why it's so important beyond just regular things. It's important every day. But since the pandemic, and this also is the same for online spaces, is that people are lonely and people are reaching out and doing things that they wouldn't necessarily do because of an appearance of safety. But one of the conversations that I had this week, and this is why it makes me even more like why we have to be more vigilant, especially in offline spaces, is that things that were happening before, right, they're happening now, but in different ways. For example, our proximity to the Canadian border, although essential travel only, is one of those kind of things that we look at because of sex trafficking, okay? And there are malls in this area that in the past have been great locators for people who are trying to get and transport people out of the country for sex trafficking. Because things are different and traffickers don't have the access that they had before, malls are closing earlier, less and less people are being there and they're going there and things like that. They're looking for new and innovative ways to find women and find men, quite honestly. They do it in spaces like parking lots. I mean, they were doing that before, but typically, you know, it would be like, okay, be careful if you're going shopping, right? But they're doing it where they might see a whole bunch of cars. According to the person that I spoke with, they're also doing this just cold driving around. So you have to be hyper vigilant now when you are out in the community, particularly because of things like that. Now there's this isn't just an anomalous situation to Western New York. Other places also have sex trafficking issues. But just the discussion was that because it's on the increase simply because it's becoming so difficult for it to happen. So we need to be aware that it's still going on around us. Additionally, really quickly, online encounters can be expedited to offline, and you don't even realize it has happened. And some of these innovative things that people like sex traffickers are doing are using those spaces, getting to know you, and then wanting to meet super quickly because they're trying to get you off that online space into the world so they can, the authorities are aware of it. They're doing their best. Obviously, they're also dealing with things like cybersecurity. We have an election coming up, right? They have a lot of things they're working on. So we have to play that role in being responsible for what's happening around us. And Q, I want to toss it over to you because you had an experience that I hope that you're comfortable sharing. If not, just share what you're comfortable sharing. And, let's talk about and kind of unpack it a little bit, about what happened, if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm not sharing the whole thing. And to be honest, it was kind of funny to me more than scary, but that's why I don't mind sharing the thing. But here's what happened. I was at Walgreens, just getting like a few things for the night. And then somebody offered me a ride. I thought nothing of it because, to be honest with you, I've been getting rides from people since I was a teenager, and nothing ever happened. No, I figured people are just kind and gracious and have no problem with me. Plus, all of you see me in person. If anybody tries something, I can hurt them. So, so anyways, he offered me a ride. He offered me a ride to my apartment. I figured, it's only just right there. Might as well let me give him a ride. Maybe just a friendly neighbor or whatever. So I got in his car and we drove, and we stopped like I would say like a block away from my apartment. I didn't give him my address or anything like that. So, and then once we stopped, he gave me $10, and I was like, "Wait, okay, like, what is this for?" And he just said, "I'm going to be honest with you. I picked you up for sexual favors." And any normal rational person would just scream, panic, and get out the car. But nah, I decided to sit here and talk to him, and just wondering, like, A, like, why do you think I would go for that? And B, like, why pick somebody up randomly at Walgreens? It's like, it was so weird to me. So I figured, okay, let me just talk to the guy for a second just to see where his head is at. So he told me that his wife was cheated on him, and basically he was having a hard time. So he thought about finding somebody to find a guy to have sex with. So, and yeah, basically I said, and he asked me if I didn't have any gay friends that I can hook him up with. So I was like, nah, but basically I gave him his money back. I got the car, and that was pretty much it. So to me, I just want to understand like where the guy's head was at. But to me, that was like the first time where I had like a strange danger moment. Like, I remember when I was in my teens and stuff like that, it would have been very easily, but this was like really like the first strange danger moment, and I'm 29 right now. So, and And if pretty much if a guy like me that's 29, that's 200 plus pounds and stuff like that can have stranger danger moments, then pretty much it can happen to anybody. So
Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm glad you're okay, because it could have gone south really quickly. And I mean, I'm sure you've heard that a million times from everybody. We're not here to preach on people, but I am glad that you're safe, especially in what's happening now in our country and how people are behaving. It could have went south quick. I'm glad you're okay. If you ever do that again, I'm gonna kill you. No, I love you. I would never do that.
okay,
Just
gotcha.
saying. I'm here for it. I just want you to be safe. And people now are just, I don't know. We have to be careful in the choices that we make. But we're also living our life, right? Like there's things that we do. Trying to get in someone's head to figure out why they're doing something, dude, become a psychologist. That's the easiest and safest way to do it. Most expensive. And then you're not going to want to be in there once you'll be like, oh God, why did they think like this? It's like trying to figure out, how to nail Jello to a wall. People are complicated. They do crazy things because they see things as an opportunity for whatever reason. Perhaps he saw that with you, who knows? But again, I'm really glad you're safe. And I'm glad that you shared that with us. I'm sure you're not the only person that's happened to, right?
To me, that to make a dark situation light, really $10? Am I really worth $10?
Look at
Come
Alex,
on.
like, that's true. You are worth far more than $10.
Right?
Mm. yeah, just a little humor for the situation.
That's actually pretty hilarious. You are worth far more than that. But I mean, that goes to show you. I mean, even speaking to your point, like, the stranger dangers, that doesn't go away just because we hit a certain threshold. Like, people, oh my God, I'm 21, I'm safe. Mm-mm. No, there's different types of predatory behavior at every age level. There's different things that happen to each of us. This gentleman, regardless of whatever sexual things he was asking for, might have just been lonely. Again, speaking to that point, COVID is making people stir crazy. They're home, people are afraid. Maybe he just wanted companionship. I don't buy the whole, my wife's cheating on me, I want sex. I don't, whatever. They all say that, right? That's whatever, that's bull. But, he could have just been a lonely dude. Doesn't condone the behavior. It's inappropriate and he knows better. Somebody that's solicitation. Had you said you'd do it, he could have been a police officer and you could have been arrested. We won't go there because I don't think that's what was happening. And vice versa, him doing it to you is solicitation. And that's illegal. But, in terms of safety, thinking about these situations before, and I'm not speaking to your situation, I'm just speaking general now, that if you have to consider the context that you're in. I don't condone getting in cars with people you don't know, especially now. Not that before it wasn't, but again, we're in a culture now and a climate where there's a lot of racial hostility. You are, like, you could be thinking you're getting in the car with one person and there's two other people in the back seat and they abduct you and beat you up. I don't mean you, I'm just saying generally, right? Like, you have to put yourself in these situations. You could be taken somewhere, because once you're in somebody's car, you're captive, right? Unless you're jumping out while they're moving. So you have to be really careful with these situations because you don't know what people are thinking. And even the ones that look the kindest, I'm sure there are people that met Ted Bundy and wanted to help him because he was a handsome guy with a cast on his arm that regretted that decision really quickly. I think were there 2, maybe 3 women that survived that because they were lucky enough to get away, but he seemed like a really nice guy and he talked to them and flirted with them before he hurt them. I I mean, that's the reality of people that are of deviant behaviors, right? Like they think differently, they interact differently with the world, they navigate things different. And that's where that safety piece comes in. Dallas, I don't know if you want to chime in, or anybody else in terms of this particular topic, but this offline safety is of paramount importance just as online is, right? And just because you're a certain age, it doesn't change the danger of the situation.
Yeah, I haven't had any experience with that, but it is like you said, like it doesn't matter the age. But I also have younger siblings who are now getting to the age where they're outside with friends and just outside going to school and that kind of thing, and just anything can happen. And I can understand just the, especially with younger kids, and like you're in a grocery store and all of a sudden your youngest one is has walked off somewhere and they're really around the corner, but just that anxiety feeling like, oh no, where are they going, and just having to drop everything and have to go find them. So just having that in the back of your mind, and it's not walking around like you said, we have to live our lives also. So it's not just walking around always in fear, but it's just sort of walking around with a sense of awareness, especially now that we're in these, I guess, the cliched troubling times or difficult times where anything and everything is happening or can happen. So we just have to be very mindful of the decisions that we're making and what's around us, especially if you're in a different part of town, that kind of thing.
Jess, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I've learned some valuable lessons from 2015 to later on. You always have to notify your family members of who you're going out with. I learned about that through offline dating. Well, online, that to offline and stuff. I wanted to keep that on the DL because I didn't want family members to really know them casually, because it wasn't anything serious at the time. This was just this was just a while back, and then other new changes and circumstances had forced me to really I had started dealing with a ex-stalker that was looking for me afterwards. So that kind of put a pigeonhole on my online meeting people, dating life. So that really, I was like, I was done roaming off. I was like, I don't want him looking for me to know who, looking for me in general. So that scared me. But I just remember that experience, and there's been a lot of very interesting so-called men, not
Yeah,
so
yeah. I mean,
friendly.
you have to be careful. And I think part of the problem is that the training behind safety has always been scare the hell out of the people who are learning about the topic. And I think you should have a level of fear. Like, don't get me wrong on that. Like, I think because these are real things that happen. You can go online and look about abductions and look about situations where things were happening. But I think giving people tools to be safe as opposed to fear is much more beneficial. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think, reminding people that if you are perhaps meeting someone online, that you not just say, hey, I'm going to a public place. You let them know where you're meeting them. Because if you don't, like, what happens if you get there and that's not who you talk to, or there's 5 people instead of the one person, right? Like, somebody should always know where you are so that if you are in a situation that's unsafe, you can get out of it. The same thing, I mean, luckily, Q, you have a cell phone. And again, I don't condone getting into vehicles with strangers. I think too much can happen too quickly when you're at the hands of somebody else in their vehicle, right? But thankfully we have things like GPS on our phones. We have our cell phones. It's not foolproof, but it's one of those things that can help get you out of a situation. Also, if I know you and you are stuck somewhere, and I'm sure anybody here would say the same thing, I'm a phone call away. I would much rather have you call me and me get up and come get you and know that you were delivered safe than to read about you in a newspaper the next day. And I mean
Amen.
that. Anybody that is connected with inclusive theater, whether it's actors or artists or whomever, you are a part of our family. And, we love you as family members. So your safety is the utmost importance to us. And if that need is there, please don't hesitate. And if you aren't part of inclusive theater, rely on your circle. There are people around you that love and care about you. Even if you think they don't, I promise you someone's there. And if they aren't, join groups, participate, you will get them quickly. We all have little pockets of circles, right? We have to rely on our circles, especially now. We don't know what the rest of the year is going to look like. We don't know, when we're going to have a vaccination for things. We don't know what's happening, with the election, all of these things that are happening around us, but they're happening. Okay. But what we do know is that we have this circle and those people that are part of our life that really do care and love us. And that's kind of the takeaway on this, really rely on those people. And if you don't feel comfortable, like, I can say, Jess maybe didn't feel comfortable talking to me. You don't have to talk to me. Talk to Queen, talk to Dale. Like, there's other people. If you feel as though, you'll be uncomfortable talking to one of us, like, I can connect. You say, I'd like to talk to somebody, just not you. I will happily get you someone to speak with. That I will have no thing other than I connected you to a person, that's your privacy. But my concern for each and every one of you, including those watching, is your safety. And we're living in times, as Dallas said, this kind of strange and unusual times, right? And we have to take care of one another. Another thing that the FBI wanted us to know, and it's equally frustrating for them, I'm sure, as you can imagine, is that we also have to remember that regardless of what we're seeing on television, law enforcement is there to help us. And one of the things that we talked about is the approach of particularly people with disabilities speaking with law enforcement, people of color speaking with law enforcement, okay? If you are ever concerned about speaking to a law enforcement official that is in your area or whatever, I can happily and will happily connect you to somebody else that is in law enforcement that has no connection to them, and they can help you with whatever it is you need to do. It is very challenging for them. They don't like to hear that they're afraid. There are people afraid of speaking to an officer because of racism. And it's happening. I mean, look at this week, unfortunately we had officers in Buffalo covering name tags at a peaceful protest. It's happening, it's real. But there are people out there that do in fact want to help. And there are ways to get to them. So if you are concerned about a situation happening and don't want to reach out to your locale, reach out to Dallas or myself, or if you prefer to do it on your own, to somebody that will direct you in the place that you need to be, okay? And there are many that do want to help. And if they don't, we're here to help. Again, I have to reiterate that, like, your circle is here to help you. And that's kind of, the cliche, right? We're a theater company, we do a show. The expectation, you do a show, bye, see you out. That's not what happens here. And you guys know it because you live with it and you get stuck with me forever. But we really do become a family, and we do care about each and every one of you and just want you to be safe, whether it's online or offline. And if there's anything that any of us can do, no, it's confidential, we're here. Same thing, people watching, like, I don't know who's going to view this later, but that's what we're here to do. We're here to help, and without judgment. I mean, it's your life. We just want you safe. And whatever we can do to help keep those things safe, that's what we're here for. So, that's all I've got. I don't know if anybody wants to kind of, Dallas, if you want to take us out in the last 4 minutes. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just want to add just a couple final things from me. One, Q, I can't believe you're only 29. And
I get that a
also
lot.
just,
So.
And also just with everything that we've said, like just make sure that you're very aware of your surroundings and make sure you're keeping your information and yourself safe. Like we've seen, like it's Murphy's Law. Anything that can happen will happen. And I don't know if do you know of coleslaw? Cabbage, carrots, mayonnaise, all mixed
Uh,
together.
nope.
Coleslaw, you get it? But don't.
Well,
I
yeah.
love coleslaw. That was pretty good though. Well done, Taylor. Well, just really quickly before we go, we do not have a show next week. The reason why, we have a show coming up on September 19th. We'll be presenting 2 plays by TJ Snodgrass, and we will be hard at rehearsal work, getting ready to give you the awesomeness that is our acting. That will be September 19th. After that, we have a date in October to be determined. He doesn't know it, but if he's watching, Michael Finelli has sent over 2 really great 10-minute plays, and I hope he will have a date that we can work with him to do October, and we'll have our show then. And then for November, we will have some kind of holiday extravaganza that we will work on in November and perform live, hopefully a couple dates in December. So we have a lot of things that we're working on. We're going to keep staying strong. You know, we're coming up on flu season. Get your flu shots if you do that kind of thing, because you know they're talking about at least differentiating between COVID and the flu shot, and they are free with most insurance. If not, they're like $20, and we can figure out a way to get it for you. We want you safe. Not everybody on Facebook, just Inclusive Theater, because that could get really expensive fast. Let's not go crazy. But you know, basically, be safe and be well. And if there's anything that we can do, please don't hesitate to ask and reach out. That's what we're here for. We love you guys. We love everybody that's watching. And we're thankful that you shared your Saturday evening with us. So thank our guests tonight. You guys have been amazing. Your experiences have been awesome. It's terrible that we all have them, but they're there. And when we talk about them, at least maybe we're helping somebody else out, and somebody else can learn how to navigate a situation that might be challenging. If not in solidarity, right? Like sometimes we need to know that we're not alone in a situation. So thank you all for being here. So without further ado, we're done for the night. We will see you all September 19th at 8 p.m. again with 2 plays by TJ Snodgrass. So have a great couple of weeks. Be safe, and we will talk to you all soon.
And if you want to send me those things, Amy, let me know.
I will do that shortly. Probably not tonight. If not tonight, tomorrow. Awesome. Have a good night, everybody.
Much love.
Mhm.